Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Idle Heroes account. We are in game this time, and today we have something a little bit interesting. In keeping with our recent trend of talking about Void Campaign, and in light of the recent Void Campaign Chapter 13 announcement, we are expecting that to be dropping this month here soon. I figured it might be time to do something of a Void Campaign guide. This is going to be a specific guide for how to set up IEA and SSM to tackle some difficult Void Campaign stages. Why those two specifically? Why not everybody? Why not DTV and RFW? Well, for a few reasons. One, I have the most experience with IEA and SSM. I have recorded clears of Void Campaign on 3 separate occasions. That was Chapter 10 with SSM, that was Chapter 11 and 12 with IEA. And so, not only do I know them decently well, but also they are very similar to one another in how you would set them up. SSM and IEA share basically identical setups for a lot of the stages that they are going to be in, whereas RFW and DTV, they differ from how you would set up SSM and IEA to a semi-significant extent, at least. And so, given my lack of experience using those two, and given how it would require a lot of extra talking on my end, I decided just to keep this specific to IEA and SSM. So, without any further ado, we are going to be talking about 5 major problem stages with Void Campaign. 1, we have the triple Valk stage, of course, and then we have attack debuff stages, Cthulhu's, SQH's, Chaos Bound Spirit, Gaggy, and then also as of late, Count of Nightmare Finn and Sylvie. Your Gustin stages, pretty easy now. 11-4-7, so one unique stage in particular definitely needs some commenting on. And when you have a TVB boss, there is something that you might wish to make use of if that is the case. So let's get to talking about it, and then we'll show some footage after we have shown all of the setups. So the 3x Valks, you can think of this as your typical nuke setup. You want to kill as fast as possible because the Valks do pretty much infinite damage to you. So you need to kill them before your layers of Unbending Will run out. And so this is the setup I would use for that. First, we have our Wukong, of course, to give us our pre-match stuns. Very helpful so that we don't have to take any attacks from the Valks. Very good. Decent copy here. You don't need anything fancy on the Wukong. And then next up, we have our Star Alchemist Holmes Young, who is, of course, absolutely insane. He not only can help attack debuff, more on this later, he can give you tons of attack buffs to your highest attack hero, which would be your damage dealer. Very cool hero, very useful, very helpful in the nuking setup. Next, we have, well, Madeline is a little bit interesting there. I don't actually know how helpful she's going to be. And I don't know how harmful she's going to be either because she does stun. So we'll talk a little bit about her soon. We have LBRM because, of course, she is quite nice. We have some damage reduction removal in the form of debuffs. We also have lots of all damage dealt given by, we have holy damage, we have all damage dealt. We have reducing attack, which is kind of cool, but it's not super helpful in the grand scheme. And then we have more all damage dealt buff. So she's quite strong. She is Polystar and not Nirvana. It comes at the disadvantage of not having another Star Soul on the team. However, given that her Destiny transition skill requires 6 layers at Polystar, but if you're Nirvana, it requires 12, means skills 2, 3, 4, and 5. These will trigger twice as often at Polystar as they will Nirvana, and so it's just flatly better from an offensive standpoint to run her at Polystar instead of Nirvana. Next, we have SQH. So, sorry, no Geister on this team through our testing. SQH just works out the more damage than MFG does. I know, heartbreaking. I spoke about this at some other point in my tier list video, but yeah, MFG, not super great. I could see MFG coming into play on a very early IEA account. So, for example, before you have Star Alchemist Home at Nirvana. So pre-Nirvana accounts that just happen to have the MFG core, they could probably slot them in for a decent chunk of damage. Might be helpful to run on a team, pretty cool, but I would not slot him in as it is now in the end game pushing team for SSM nor IEA. And then we have Madeline, and this slot is a bit of a wild card as of now because Madeline came out just as I was finishing Chapter 12, so I don't exactly know how her damage works out compared to, say, Doppelganger Natalia, who would have been in this slot before Madeline existed. Now, DGN, I had a very strong opinion of. I thought she was just absolutely insane. However, a lot of her damage support came from stripping damage reduction. And, well, we have lots of damage reduction bypass at this point, be it from Destiny skills, be it from the new imprint trees. And so DGN basically gives some attack and some holy damage, and not much else. Aside from, of course, a decent Destiny tree and the ability to spread debuffs, which isn't super helpful for nuking anymore, because as we mentioned, she moves DR, and we have plenty of DR bypass already. And so Madeline might be helpful. I'm not super sure how much all damage reduction the enemies have. If they have some, I could imagine this being super helpful, because if you are not familiar with her kit, she does reduce a fair chunk of all damage reduction, both from her sublimation, the noble sublimation you can see there, and from whenever she grants Frantic Gluttony. One of the very few places where we have all damage reduction removal, or all damage reduction bypass, depending on the source. But regardless, pretty cool. Still yet to be officially tested by me. Others may have, and I'm not super familiar with their results, but this is what the nuke setup would look like. One thing to note, we now have 2 sources of stun, which is very dangerous for Valkyrie. And so, keep in mind this is for endgame. We leverage this. Plume 25. When the Star Soul skill is released, offsets 25% of control immunity of targets with Blazing Nova, and they will take the Star Soul skill effect one more time. What is Blazing Nova? Blazing Nova is from the Nova Sacred Flame. Where is this? At the end of each round, inflicts Blazing Nova on 3 random enemies for 1 round. Blazing Nova reduces the target's block and dodge by 30%. That part's not super important for this. What is important is that we just have Blazing Nova planted. So this inflicts Blazing Nova for 2 rounds, which is nice. So that'll be in the round that it's inflicted, in the round immediately after. And then this goes in the round immediately after. And so what this means is that in round 2, we can have up to 4 enemies with Blazing Nova. And now let's go back to the time plume. Plume 25 offsets 25% control immunity of targets with Blazing Nova, and they will take the Star Soul skill effect one more time. Inflicts shapeshifting. So round 2, we have the opportunity to dove up to 4 enemies. This could be 3 enemies, because if Blazing Nova is re-inflicted on the target who got it in round 1, well, that's just overlap, it's redundant, and then we kind of get screwed out of the 4th target. However, 3, sometimes 4 targets can be shapeshifted in round 2. And so what does this mean for us? Well, as we know, shapeshifting deactivates passive skills, which means it deactivates Valkyrie's reactive burns. And so this actually has pretty unique interplay with our speed order. So if we run Star Alchemist Holmes Young fastest, and then we immediately dove the enemies, what does this mean? It means we now have the opportunity to re-inflict a stun, because if you don't know, a stun just sort of takes the place of past ones. It's not like skill effects where they can't overlap. It takes the place of the most recent stun, and it basically just extends the duration. And so what can happen is if we have a dubbed Valkyrie, we can inflict a stun on it in round 2, And then that stun has the chance to carry over into round 3. So if all Valkyries are doved and then restunned, we effectively have bought ourselves an entire extra round of attacks at no cost. Usually the stun buys us more time at the cost of some of our unbending will layers. This basically covers that. We no longer lose unbending will layers if we stun doved Valks. And so what this means is that for this speed order, and there will be a video accompanying, so do not worry about that. What this means is that for this speed order, we will have Star Alchemist Holmes Young first, and then we will have Wukong immediately after. He will re-inflict the stun, and if the Valks are doved, which they should be, because you can try infinite times, you have effectively bought yourself an entire extra round. Immensely helpful. Now, as for Madeline, when she is healed 3 times around, she then has a 60% chance to stun 3 enemies with the lowest HP. Now, if the Valks aren't your lowest HP, that's not an issue at all. Unfortunately, for some stages, like the Holmes Young stage, because Holmes Youngs heal a whole heck of a lot, the Valks often will be. But let's see where these heals can come from. When Alice with Frantic Gluttony release basic attacks or active skills, restores self HP equal to 10% of lost HP, and increases energy by 3. So, if your first 2, your Star Alchemist Holmes and then your Wukong, have healed her, that's 2 out of 3 heals already. And if, we're just absolutely just theory crafting, so if your eyes have glazed over, I'm very sorry. I'm not sorry at all, but this is just how it goes around here. And then we also have this. Boom. When a hero takes burn damage, restores self HP equal to 4% of max HP, and increases self all damage dealt by 3% for 2 rounds. So, we have a very rapid triggering of that second batch of stuns, which is very bad in most contexts. However, and I haven't worked this out yet, I'm just thinking about it in real time, I see no reason why we can't just script this to make the heals land precisely when the doves will be. And because the stunning isn't a basic attack or an active skill, it won't pop the doves whenever this third heal happens. And so I see no reason why the stuns couldn't just happen to occur when the Valks are doved. And so you basically don't need to worry about this. This is, of course, just in theory. I don't know how this will work out in practice yet, but I see no reason why it can't. It seems fairly reasonable to set up. Seems pretty easy, actually. What this will say about speed order, I don't quite know. I reckon Madeline will be 2nd or 3rd, of course, behind Star Alchemist Holmes, depending on when we can align those stones. But that's enough about this. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Thugas, SQH, and Gaggy. I only have 3 heroes listed here. Why is that? Well, because these are the 3 mainstays, basically. And then the rest can be a little bit different depending on the unique positioning of the heroes. What do I mean by that? Well, sometimes the enemies will have 0 threats in the backline. Let me think of an example real quick. No. 12-3-5? Yes, there we go. The passive damage dealers are Gaggy and SQH, and they are both located in the front line. In this case, you would want to run Star Alchemist Holmes fastest with an active skill. And then you would run SSM second fastest with an active skill. They both only hit the back line, and so you basically just get your next attacks free of charge. And then if you wanted to be super duper uber safe, you could run a Sylvie, who will also only attack the back line. And then you just have tons of debuffs spammed out already. So that's quite cool. We'll see a video of this. There's not much to really explain. You just kind of debuff cycle. And then you could even run an LFA targeting the back line because he also will not hit the front line. Very safe setup for that one. But yeah, like I said, the hero compositioning will depend largely on what exactly the enemy stage is composed of. Gustins, ignore the fact that these two are empty. You would not have them empty. But what I do plan to do is 5 heroes without divine power so that they deal -1s against the Gustins. Full energy feed, of course. TVB is here so the Gustins don't themselves attack. And then we have 1 Lord of Sparkles Yormtum as the damage dealer here. Any copy will do. I have this one for control precision and CI offset. This is so that the basic attack right here and the active skill right here are always inflicting the Seal of Light on the one and only target that Yormtum is attacking. I go in depth about this in the tier list video. And then 0 chance for him to get his Destiny skills off because this will deal damage to the entire backline. But he only seals 1 at a time reliably. So we just want to avoid any damage sources against non-sealed Gustins. And so we use Lord of Sparkles to just systematically take the Gustins down one by one. The seal will prevent the ping on the Gustin that he is currently killing, and the rest of the team will not trigger any pings. So pretty cool there. 1147, this is the Anti-SSM stage. And let's just take a look at what this is. We'll be able to see a fight about this later. But 1147 is this one. And this is Anti-SSM because you really want to use SSM as a supporter here to debuff the Cthulhu's because he does a very potent attack reduction. It is 35% attack reduction, and it is smart attack reduction, so it's targeted. If we read right here, bam, when he is in Star Ascending, reduces the attack of the 2 enemies with the highest attack by 35% for 2 rounds. Immensely helpful against this stage right here. And if SSM is in the back line, because you remember this one you need to nuke down too, because there are Valks, it's really difficult to do that because SSM can't use himself as an attack debuff support if he is also present in the back line as the damage dealer. And so this is actually the stage that inspired me to go in on IEA instead of SSM again, just because this is a stage that SSM is uniquely troubled by, and IEA has no such weakness so far in Void Campaign. So a bit troubling for SSM mains there. Very sorry, but it is what it is. And so if you look at the setup here, 1147, we have the standard fare of heroes. We have our Wukong, who is going to be pretty much ever present. We have our Star Alchemist Holmes Young, of course, who would be fastest in this scenario because, again, the backline is totally safe. And so we don't mind if he smacks the backline. And then we have SSM second fastest, and then we would have DGN, and then we would have Wukong, and then LBRM, and then IEA can smack. And then TVV boss, 12, 5, 10. This is especially annoying if you are not immune, and so you can't reduce the TVB's energy with your own TVB. Oh my god, this stage is just this stage is just fucking evil. I hate this stage. But what I do here is a little bit different. I run a Snow Heart, and what this one Snow Heart allowed me to do is it reduced the TVB's energy by 20, and just helped me prevent her passive skill from going off before I could lay my attack reductions. And so this is the setup I use. I don't know if these are the Purifies exactly, but just the introduction of this one Snow Heart definitely helped me get through it. Star Alchemist Holmes has the Toad because the backline is unsafe. Take a look here. You'll see the SQH there. So the Toad is so he gets a basic attack, accumulates his layers, and hopefully does not hit the SQH. Very scary. And also scary is the slot 1 Sylvie. See, they're getting smart. DH is getting smart about this. the BQA will hit the Sylvie, and if the BQA breaks the Sylvie's shield, well, you're just kind of screwed because she will explode on you. She'll get very mad, and it'll be bad times for everybody. So if you have Giant Killer on your BQA, probably take it off if you were going against Sylvies. Otherwise, you might be in for a bad time. But yeah, those are the stages that I have sort of pre-packaged lineups for. A few stages that have not come out that would require something unique that I have not cooked up. If they cook something like multiple Gustins with multiple Valks, I don't even know what I would do against that. To be honest, I might Nirvana Yorm Tum to spam Seal of Light to see if that does anything. That would be nasty. Nasty stage. But that's enough yap. This isn't an account tour, by the way. If you want an account tour, leave a comment about it. I mean, it's not a super cool account. I don't have much to flex. I mean, it's strong, of course. I'm pretty happy with it. Strong enough to beat Void Campaign as the islands come out, which is the pace that I like to keep. But I mean, I don't have S tiers for example, nothing super fancy. But I think without further ado, we can dive into our videos and just take a bit of a look. And so first things first, I just want to demonstrate the Plume. Forgive the horrendous quality. I know it's bad. Sorry. It's embarrassing for me. It is, I promise. You don't need to tell me about it in the comments. I know the quality's bad. But so we're going to slow it down here. The Star Alchemist Holmes is going to attack. He's going to dove the 3 Valks. And then the Wukong's going to attack immediately after. He's going to re-stun. And you will see we take 0 retaliatory burns after that. So basically free stuns for everybody, which is quite nice. Bam! There we go. And so that's all we have to show for that, just to demonstrate how that works and why we might want to run our stunners directly underneath our Plume holder for Valk stages. Now, this is how IEA and SSM will both deal damage. We'll talk about SSM specifically for a bit, because IEA doesn't have such a unique nuke condition. If you don't know, SSM basically works on a timer. And this timer basically counts how many chases he gets. If he gets X amount of chases, X just being an unknown variable, he swaps to his defensive form and will no longer deal damage for you. So what you want to do is you want to do something like this. And don't worry, we'll watch it multiple times. You want to use as few chases as possible in rounds 1 and round 2 so that he doesn't swap prematurely in round 3. And then you basically want to RNG full chases round 3. This ensures the maximum amount of damage because most buffs will have been accumulated round 3, whereas if he swaps stances after round 2, well, you just lost round 3 with more Abyssal Corruption, more buffs on your SSM, more debuffs on the enemies, etc. And so you basically want to make actives 1 and 2 hit kind of weakly, and then round 3, here it comes, maximum amount of chases allowed there, just absolutely ripping into them round 3. So that's what SSM wants to do. Consume not max chases round 1 or 2 because they're not able to be buffed as effectively at that point. And then round 3, or if you don't want to do round 3 and you want to do round 2, just go all in, get all your chases immediately round 3. And that is how SSM achieves his maximum damage output. IEA is not like that. She does not have chase RNG. She doesn't have targeting RNG. She has the luxury of being the least RNG dependent main damage dealer, which can be helpful or harmful because with SSM you have some targeting priority that you can do. You can specifically hit the Valks with enough RNG if he chooses to rift them. IEA just hits everybody, whether or not you want that to happen. But yeah, so that's basically how you differentiate that. Again, This was before Plume 25, so I ran Wukong slower than SSM, so that SSM would attack before Wukong had a chance to stun again. At this point, it would be different. I would run Wukong second speed if I were to use these exact heroes, because Wukong would have a chance to stun while the Valks are doved. So that is how I would set up IEA and SSM for the nuke stage. Next up, we have attack debuff stages. This one you may have seen in Rex's video, by the way. I mean, if you're watching me, you probably are very much familiar with Rex already. But he posted an absolute banger of a Blood-Tide Queen Urania video. Very comprehensive, covers the skills, the important skills, where she's helpful, where she is perhaps not so much helpful, which turned out to be many places, unfortunately for our dear Urania. But he did give her a fair shake, highlighted where exactly she could be used in as few places as those may be. Very good video, about half an hour long. Highly recommend checking that out if you're looking to learn more about BQA. Very awesome video. But this is the full fight. I selected this one specifically, one, because it's an extraordinarily difficult variation of the Gaggy SQH combo. We have one slot one, which is where BQA typically likes to attack, and we have the SQH in the back line where Holmes Young likes to attack. Very fussy stage, and so it requires a bit of a unique setup here. But this is just basically to showcase how the attack debuffs will work. BQA triggers her attack reduction on 3 random enemies every time an ally performs an active skill. And so we just basically make the enemies tickle us for however long it takes for us to nuke them down. SSM taking the hits here will swap to his offensive stance very soon and then nuke down the stage. IEA will probably kill it much faster because she will not be, hitting like a wet noodle for the first 6 or so rounds. I think it was, 6 rounds, 5 rounds. But regardless, waves like these where you don't have the stats to just outright nuke, attack reductions are your friend. And so we basically held them down for as long as we could, became sufficiently strong such that we could start to kill them with our SSM, and then they died. And that tends to be the strat for waves such as this. So we'll watch the rest of the fight out, and then we will move along. All right, round 10 kill there. Very nice. This is 12-4-6. This was, unfortunately, the only footage I have of this one. Quality sucks, but you can see the round 30 there. This was with only T5 heroes, as you can see by us doing no damage there. Excellent example. And then Yormtum being the sole damage dealer for that. See all the -1s, basically how this one works. But yeah, 12-4-6 was 2 Gustins, 2 Eloise. And this is 12-4-7. This was me testing out the setup before I put any enable fusions on the IEA. So she's hitting a little bit weaker than she would have, but we still get close to a stage clearance, which is pretty cool. So basically just how I described the scheme to go. Wukong running just under Star Alchemist Holmes in the speed order. Everybody doing their jobs. IEA coming in to smack. And then she's going to have an absolute hammer drop of a round 3 active that's going to almost kill them. It's not quite going to do so. Here it comes, right after DGN. Bam. And so that's what basically sold the setup for me if she were infused at this point. she would have absolutely just wrecked the stage. And then I, of course, have evidence of this. 0 infusions. There we go. See, I'm not one to just lie. And then, well, there's an Aspen that I have now. I wasn't expecting to show this off, but it was in my camera roll. So, but that's basically going to do it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Let me know if the video sucked for probably one of many reasons. And then I might try to address that in a future installment. I doubt this will be a series because, well, accounts that are just able and willing to let me test for RFW and DTV clears in late void campaign, they're few and far between. Nobody really wants some random dude logging in on their account and hogging all the fun for void campaign. If there is anybody on iOS who would like me to play with their RFW and or DTV, and they are strong enough to be in chapter 11, 12, I'd be happy to take a gander if you wanted that to happen. But of course, feel no obligation to just have some random dude on the internet log into your account and play on it. It would be cool. I'll help with setups. I'd be interested to see how it does. But aside from that, that's basically all I got for you. Maybe I'll do an account tour. Maybe I will not. We'll have to see. But aside from that, let me know what I could improve on. Let me know what I did well. I love compliments. Pour them on. And check out Rex video again. That BQA video, awesome. The LBA video, also awesome. That's informed PvP decisions on my end. Very cool. Very cool. Anyways, bye-bye. Love you. Good luck with chapter 13. Chinese New Year coming out. Bye-bye.